I know it can be super frustrating to figure out what exactly you need to put in your contract, where to even get a contract, and how to go about getting the legal portions of your business set up. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Hello, if you are new here, my name is Kinsey. I'm the brand and web designer behind Kinsey Green Design, and if you're not new, welcome back. This was a video requested by one of my subscribers, and it's also a video that I think a lot of people are going to find really useful, whether you are just starting out in freelancing, you've been freelancing a while, or maybe you're freelancing in a different industry that doesn't even involve design. I think a lot of these things I go over about what you really need to put in your contract can be applied to all sorts of different industries. Number one thing you need to have in your contract, this should kind of be a given, is the deliverables. What is your client actually getting? And when you're listing out your deliverables, you have to be very specific. So if you're giving your client a label design and then they have different variations of their product, how many different label designs are you going to provide? You're building a website for them and it has multiple pages. What is on those pages? Which pages are going to be included on that website? And at the end of the project, do they get all of their final files? Do they get a brand guide with it? What all comes with these deliverables at the end of the project? Number two thing that should also kind of be a given that's in your contract is the investment. So how much is the overall project and what kind of payment plan or payment structure do you have in place for your client? So some of my clients pay a $500 deposit up front, and then on our start date, they pay half of their project. And then at the end of our project, they pay the other half. And then I also have some clients who are on monthly payment plans. It really all comes down to how you do business and how you want to run your business. Some people take payment all up front. I choose to either break it into 2 installments or do monthly payment plans because I feel like that can accommodate more clientele, and I've never had a problem doing either of those. And if you're like me and you take a deposit up front, which you should, you also will probably want to add in your contract that the deposit is non-refundable. So I ask for a deposit up front because it basically lets me know that that particular client is actually serious about our project. I do need to reserve their spot. And if they ever choose to pull out on the day of our project or they ghost me, something like that, they cannot come back and ask for this deposit back because they paid it as due diligence money pretty much. Third thing that you need in your contract is the timeline and the process. So when is your project starting? How long is it going to take? And what's going to happen in between that time? So in my contract, I do kind of have 4 little lines where I break down my actual process, what happens within that time frame, and what's expected of my client during that time. So during the first week, I expect my client to give me a mood board. That's also stated within my contract. It's legally required that they give me a mood board, and they're supposed to do that within 1 week of our start date. I then break down about the estimated time frame for me to design their brand identity, get feedback from them, move onto the website, design the website, and then have our 1-hour training session and offboarding portion of our project. With that, I also note that if my client does not follow through with their estimated due dates that I have listed for them inside of my project management system, Asana, then I am no longer responsible for delivering the project on time. So if a client owes me something and they have not given that something to me within 5 days of that due date, well, I'm no longer responsible for delivering the project on time because they're slacking on their part, so they're gonna get pushed to the bottom of my priority list. I highly recommend everybody include some kind of clause like that in their contract because at some point you will experience a client who does not follow through with deadlines. Next, you're gonna wanna include the amount of refinements that you allow. So for me, I allow a max of 3 rounds of refinement on the brand identity, as well as 3 rounds of refinement on the website design. And it's also noted that if the client goes beyond 3 rounds of refinement, we will have to pause and discuss additional costs. Next, you're gonna wanna be sure that you list out your client's responsibilities. So as I was saying before, my clients are responsible for giving me a mood board. They're also responsible for turning things in on time. And I also specify who is responsible for what after the project is over. So if I give my client all of their branding files and they go get it printed somewhere, I'm not responsible for anything that happens during that printing process. I'm also not responsible for renewing the domain. I'm not responsible for the client's hosting, and I'm definitely not responsible for maintaining the website after I hand it off to my client, and that's noted under their responsibilities clause. This next one I find super, super important because I've actually had to use it before. It is the confidentiality section of the contract. This is basically where I state that I have access to my client's specific records, passwords, all sorts of different private information that I will keep in a safe place and not share with other people. But this portion also states that I, as the designer, am allowed to put my website design credit in the footer of websites that I design. I'm allowed to display the work I create for clients on my website, and I'm also allowed to share it on my social media pages. I've never really had to utilize my contract too many times with clients. I have amazing clients for the most part, but one time, nearly a year later, a client had came back to me and said, "Hey, I don't remember allowing you to put your website design credit on my website." And all I responded with was a photo of the contract. I literally didn't say anything. I just sent a picture of the contract, and then they were like, "Oh, okay." And that was the end of it. You're also going to want to include your working hours in your contract. So for me personally, I work Monday to Thursday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Friday, I work from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. I'm not responsible for answering clients outside of those hours. And I'm also not responsible for answering clients outside of my project management system. I specifically state in this section that my clients are to communicate with me through my project management system after I start working with them. And they definitely are not allowed to call or text me, which that's not really a problem anymore because I do not ever give my number out to clients. Although when I first started my business, I did, and I know some of you watching this may have already done that as well. All right, the second to last thing in the contract that you want to add is client ownership. The client ownership portion basically states who owns what after the project is completed. And the last thing that you'll want to be sure you have in your contract is the cancellation policy. So this portion basically states that the designer or the client can cancel the project at any time if they no longer want to continue with the project. However, if they do that, they are still responsible for paying me whatever work I have incurred during that time. And if they cancel the project before it's over and they have not finished paying off everything, I still retain ownership to all of the files created. I think that's a really important clause because canceling projects midway with difficult clients can lead you to very tricky situations. So that is pretty much everything I included in my contract in a nutshell. And if you watch all of this and you're thinking, "Kenzie, that's great, I want to include all these things, but I don't even know where to start with writing out a contract. I don't want to hire a lawyer," I have the thing for you if that's what you're thinking right now. It is called Hello Bonsai. I have talked about this in my other videos. It is what I use for my invoicing. It is what I use for my proposals. It's what I use to store client information, and it's what I use to store my contracts. I will be leaving my referral link in the description. You can get 2 weeks free, and Hello Bonsai has starter freelance contract templates, and this is how I actually wrote my contract. So I started with one of their templates, I added all of these things in my contract, and as I went along with clients, gain experience, I would modify things in this contract to fit my needs and go over certain points or things that I thought needed to be added as I learned about working with clients and things of that nature. Hopefully this video has been very informative and helpful for you guys. If you have any questions about writing your contract or using Hello Bonsai to generate a contract template, let me know in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them, and I will see you in the next video.